The wine glass shattered against marble, but I barely heard it. My hand stayed frozen mid-reach as Ren's laughter cut through the dinner party chatter. Not her usual laugh. This was different. Intimate. Then Kaylin's voice followed. Remember what we discussed about emotional scaffolding? Sometimes you need to tear down the old structure before you can build something authentic, Ren finished, touching his arm. My therapeutic framework. My exact words from last Tuesday's session. The room tilted slightly. At 43, I'd built my practice on precision and professional boundaries. Dr. Arden Cross, they'd say at conferences, runs the tightest ship in the city. 15 years of marriage to Ren, 12 years of private practice, and not once had I compromised the sacred space between therapist and client. My colleagues often joked that I probably documented my grocery lists. They weren't entirely wrong. Structure had saved me more times than I could count. Marcus, our host, rushed over with napkins. Arden, you okay? You look pale. Fine, I managed. Just clumsy. But I wasn't fine. That phrase, emotional scaffolding, I developed it specifically for Kaylin's sessions. The way Ren said it. The practiced ease. The shared glance. She'd never attended his sessions. There was only one way she could know. I excused myself from the party early, mind racing not with hurt, but with professional obligations. In my home office, I opened Kaylin's file and began documenting everything. Time 9:47 p.m., date October 15th. Observed, client using therapeutic concepts with my spouse in social setting, suggesting inappropriate disclosure of session content. At 10:15 p.m., I called Dr. Helena Marsh, my supervisor, despite the late hour. Helena, I need immediate supervision. I believe I've discovered my spouse is involved with a client. I'll see you first thing tomorrow, Arden. Document everything. Make no contact with the client until we meet. I spent the night creating a detailed timeline, pulling appointment records, and reviewing Kaylin's intake forms. By dawn, I'd found the first discrepancy. Kaylin had listed his emergency contact as K. Reeves, with a phone number I now recognized as Ren's dedicated work cell. Dr. Marsh's office, 7 a.m. sharp, coffee untouched, my documentation spread across her desk. You've handled the immediate documentation well, she said, reviewing my notes. Now let's discuss next steps. First, you must terminate therapy with Mr. Reeves immediately. I'll sit in as a witness. What about reporting requirements? Document the termination thoroughly. If you discover any falsification on intake forms or insurance claims, that's a separate matter requiring legal consultation. For now, focus on ethical termination. At 2 p.m., Kaylin arrived for his session. Dr. Marsh sat quietly in the corner as I began. Mr. Reeves, I need to inform you that our therapeutic relationship is terminated effective immediately due to an insurmountable conflict of interest. His face paled. Arden, I can explain. No explanation is necessary or appropriate. I'll provide you with 3 referrals. Your records will be transferred upon receipt of proper release forms. This session is concluded. But, Mr. Reeves, Dr. Marsh interjected, Dr. Cross has followed proper termination protocol. Please collect your belongings. After he left, she turned to me. Textbook handling. Now let's discuss what you found in his intake documentation. That evening, Nathan, my brother and criminal attorney, reviewed my findings in his office. This emergency contact listing is interesting, he mused. When did he start therapy? 8 months ago. And when the affair likely began? Based on credit card patterns and schedule changes, approximately 6 months ago. Nathan pulled up Kaylin's intake forms. He signed under penalty of perjury that all information was accurate. If he was already involved with Ren and deliberately concealed it to gain access to therapy with you, that's fraud? Potentially. Insurance fraud if he used coverage, definitely violation of informed consent. You couldn't properly assess conflicts of interest with false information. Start documenting every insurance claim submitted. I'd already pulled the records. 17 sessions billed to Blue Cross after the estimated affair start date. $3,400 in claims. That's wire fraud if he used electronic submission. Each claim is a separate count. Nathan's expression sharpened. What about his professional licensing? He's a licensed architect. Professional boards take ethics violations seriously. Document everything. We're building parallel cases, criminal fraud, and professional misconduct. Over 3 weeks, Nathan and I methodically built our case. I maintained therapeutic boundaries, never accessing confidential session notes, but administrative records revealed a pattern. Wren's sabbatical request, submitted 2 days after Kaylin's first appointment. Her conference in Chicago that aligned with his site visit to the same city. The architectural consultation at her university that began 1 week after he became my client. He stalked our life through therapy, I told Nathan, showing him the timeline. Careful with language. We prove facts, not intentions. But this timeline is damning. Dr. Marsh supported the investigation. You're protecting future clients and the integrity of the profession. His deception prevented informed consent. That's fundamental. I discovered Kaylin had written a negative review of another therapist 6 months before coming to me, complaining about rigid boundaries and lack of personal investment. The pattern was clear. He'd sought a married therapist and found one in me. During this period, I also uncovered something more disturbing in my administrative records. Kaylin had initially called my practice requesting specifically to see me, claiming he'd been referred by a colleague. When my receptionist asked which colleague, he'd fumbled before naming Dr. Francesca Reed, a psychiatrist who'd retired 2 years prior. The receptionist, new at the time, hadn't caught the discrepancy. This premeditation added another layer to Nathan's developing case, showing Kaylin had researched my practice and personal life before ever stepping into my office. Nathan filed the first complaint with the State Insurance Fraud Division. 17 counts of insurance fraud, each carrying potential criminal penalties. The filing was meticulous. Copies of claims, intake forms with false information highlighted, timeline of the affair cross-referenced with billing dates. Simultaneously, I filed a complaint with the State Board of Architects. While personal relationships weren't their purview, using professional credentials to gain access to confidential information for personal gain was an ethics violation. He listed his architecture firm on intake forms, I explained to the investigator, then used information from therapy to pursue my wife, who oversees university architectural contracts. The investigator's eyes widened. He bid on university projects during this time. I produced the records. 3 proposals submitted, 1 accepted, value $2.8 million. The investigator made additional notes after studying the bid documents. Dr. Cross, these proposals reference specific sustainability requirements that weren't public until after the RFP deadline. The only way he could have known about them in advance. She trailed off, pulling up her laptop. Your wife serves on the confidential planning committee that set those requirements. This goes beyond personal misconduct. This could be corporate espionage. The scope of the investigation suddenly expanded, with the State Attorney General's office expressing interest in potential bid-rigging charges. What had started as a personal betrayal was revealing itself as an elaborate scheme to compromise the integrity of public contracting. Wren confronted me after Kaylin received his first legal notice. You're destroying his life over a personal matter, she accused. I'm reporting documented fraud. He falsified medical forms, submitted fraudulent insurance claims, and used his professional position to compromise therapeutic boundaries. I remained calm, factual. His choices have consequences. This is revenge. This is the legal system working as designed. He committed fraud to gain access to confidential information. Every therapist he deceived, every insurance company he defrauded, deserves justice. And me? Will you destroy me too? You made personal choices that hurt me deeply, but you committed no professional violations, no fraud. The divorce will be civil. She left, but I'd already documented her knowledge of the therapy relationship. Texts where she mentioned his sessions, emails discussing his progress, evidence she knew the ethical violations while they occurred. What I didn't tell her was that my attorney had already discovered a pattern in her university email records, obtained through the divorce discovery process, showing she'd initiated contact with 3 other architectural firms during the same period, all of whom had mysteriously withdrawn from the bidding process for major university projects. While not criminal, it painted a picture of someone who understood exactly how to leverage her position, making Kaylin's successful bid appear even more suspect to university investigators. The insurance fraud investigator called 4 weeks later. Mr. Reeves wants to negotiate a plea agreement. Nathan handled negotiations. Kaylin pled guilty to 5 counts of insurance fraud, agreeing to pay full restitution plus penalties, $11,000 total. He received 2 years probation and 200 hours of community service. The architectural board moved slower but more devastatingly, using professional credentials to access confidential information for personal gain, plus questions about the university bid process, resulted in a 6-month license suspension and mandated ethics training. The university, alerted to potential conflicts in the bidding process, launched their own investigation. Wren, facing scrutiny over the architectural contract awards, resigned to pursue other opportunities. The state's investigation into the bid rigging allegations culminated in a separate criminal case. Kaylin faced additional charges of conspiracy to defraud a public institution and theft of proprietary information. The evidence was overwhelming. Emails between him and Wren discussing inside tracks and advance intelligence. Coded references to committee decisions before public announcements. And financial records showing unexplained deposits to Wren's personal accounts, coinciding with key contract milestones. This secondary prosecution resulted in an additional 18 months of incarceration, suspended pending successful completion of his extended probation. The university subsequently implemented new disclosure requirements for all committee members involved in vendor selection. The State Therapy Board, reviewing my handling of the situation, issued a formal commendation. My immediate termination, proper documentation, and ethical complaint process became a case study in professional conduct. Dr. Marsh submitted a letter. Dr. Cross exemplified the highest ethical standards when confronting an impossible personal situation. His actions protected the profession's integrity while maintaining appropriate boundaries. My practice, initially shaken, grew stronger. Colleagues referred complex cases, trusting my ethical framework. New clients appreciated knowing their therapist would protect confidentiality even at personal cost. The divorce proceeded quietly. Wren, her career damaged by the university investigation, relocated to Seattle. The financial settlement was straightforward. Documented fraud eliminated any sympathy for Kaylin's influence on her choices. 3 months after the divorce finalized, I received an unexpected call from Dr. Francesca Reed, the retired psychiatrist Kaylin had falsely claimed referred him. She'd heard about the case through professional channels. "I want you to know," she said, "that I treated Mr. Reeves 5 years ago. I terminated our therapeutic relationship after 3 sessions due to concerning boundary issues. I've forwarded my termination documentation to the state board." This revelation added historical context to Kaylin's pattern of behavior, strengthening the professional board's decisions and validating my actions further. 1 year later, I received a letter from Kalen's attorney. He was suing for defamation, claiming I'd destroyed his career over personal animosity. Nathan laughed when I showed him. He pled guilty to fraud, admitted falsifying forms. This is desperation. The suit was dismissed with prejudice. The judge's ruling was scathing. Plaintiff admitted to insurance fraud directly related to defendant's complaints. Reporting criminal activity is not defamation. Kalen's architectural firm dissolved 6 months later. Word traveled in professional circles. Ethics violations in one area suggested untrustworthiness in others. His reputation, built on charm and manipulation, crumbled under legal scrutiny. During the defamation proceedings, Kalen's attorney inadvertently introduced evidence that opened yet another avenue of investigation. In attempting to show his client's previously sterling reputation, they submitted letters of recommendation Kalen had used for various projects. Sharp-eyed prosecutors noticed striking similarities in language and formatting across supposedly independent references. Forensic analysis revealed that Kalen had fabricated at least 12 professional references over his career, using variations of defunct companies and retired professionals. This discovery triggered a comprehensive audit of all his past projects, with 3 major clients initiating lawsuits for fraudulent misrepresentation. The FBI's white-collar crime division opened a file, recognizing a pattern of interstate wire fraud spanning nearly a decade. 2 years post-discovery, I presented at a national therapeutic ethics conference. When personal betrayal meets professional boundaries drew standing room only. The hardest moment wasn't discovering the affair, I told the audience. It was choosing law over revenge, process over passion. Our professional obligations don't pause for personal pain. A young therapist asked, "Did you ever regret not handling it personally?" I handled it personally by handling it professionally. The legal system provided what revenge never could: validated truth, documented consequences, and clean closure. I kept my license, my reputation, and my integrity intact. After the presentation, Dr. Marsh found me. "Proud of you, Arden. You turned personal tragedy into professional triumph." That evening, in my Harborview apartment, I made Turkish coffee in a new pot. Gift from a colleague who'd heard my story. The ritual remained, but its meaning had evolved. Once about shared mornings, now about solitary strength. My phone buzzed. New client referral carefully vetted through improved intake procedures. Every form now included additional verification, cross-references, emergency contact validation, lessons learned, systems improved. The referral came with a note from the referring therapist. Client specifically requested someone with strong ethical boundaries. I immediately thought of you. It was signed by Dr. Samuel Torres, one of the board investigators who'd reviewed my case. The professional community had transformed what could have been career-ending scandal into career-defining integrity. My practice waiting list now stretched 3 months, filled with clients who valued the safety of uncompromising ethical standards. My experience had sparked broader changes in the therapeutic community. The state board adopted my documentation protocols as recommended best practices, dubbing them the cross guidelines in professional literature. Insurance companies restructured their verification processes, requiring photo ID confirmation for initial claims and periodic audits of emergency contact information. The American Association of Marriage and Family Therapists invited me to chair a new ethics committee focused on preventing client-therapist boundary violations through improved intake procedures. What had begun as personal devastation became the catalyst for industry-wide reform, protecting countless future therapists and clients from similar exploitation. The truth I'd discovered wasn't about trust or betrayal. It was about the power of proper documentation, ethical guidelines, and legal frameworks. Personal pain demanded professional response. The law, not revenge, had been my salvation. Through the window, boats navigated harbor channels marked by careful buoys. Rules, boundaries, and guidelines didn't restrict movement. They enabled safe passage through dangerous waters. In therapy, as in law, the framework protects everyone, even sometimes the one enforcing it.